All right, welcome everybody to the speaker series. We're gonna open with prayer and then we're gonna get into our introductions for our speakers. So if you bow your head and close your eyes. Dear Father, please be with us as we are here to listen to what our speaker has to say today. Help it to go into our brains and for us to take good notes for the reports we probably have to write on it. And be with us for the rest of the day and this week during midterms, help us going forward and continue to bless us. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. And now.
Hey. Thank you, Joanne. And this School of Business has been in touch with the meat lobster recently. And I think, we're doing the research with the group of partners at University of Laval, and we're desperate to connect with the manufacturing sector here in Alberta. And Peter DeWitt right here connected me with other Peter from Meat Lobster. and we started working together. We're exploring possibilities. As you know, this School of Business belongs to the community, to the business community, and we're opening the door for business to come in and inform what we do, and we can interact for the benefits of our students, for the benefits of our community. So tonight we have a group from MEE, M-E-E, you said that already, and here to speak with you. And I'm going to introduce Peter, we talked about, then Peter will introduce the group. And I welcome you all again for being here. And that is a beginning. We will continue to work together. And Peter will share more about me and the program that Me Cluster has that would involve student level. Thank you for being here, Peter.
Thank you for the introduction. So good evening. So I'm not your speaker today. I'll just introduce the Me Cluster and kind of some of the initiatives we have, particularly for students. So my name is Peter Krasinski. I'm the Executive Director of the Manufacturing Export Enhancement Cluster. So the cluster is a not-for-profit. We're based in Red Deer, and our mission is to support the manufacturing sector in Western Canada in technology adoption, best practice adoption, support innovation in the cluster, and support building a collaborative manufacturing ecosystem across Western Canada. So helping manufacturers learn about the various resources, tools, programs, supports, and solutions available to them to help them grow, overcome challenges, hire workers, and so on. So one of the initiatives I wanted to mention today is the Smart Manufacturing Technology Expo. So that's a trade show / expo that the Me Cluster hosts in Red Deer at Westerner Park. This year it's May 15th and 16th. So it's about 2.5 months away. So it's a 2-day expo. There's going to be about 75 exhibitors on manufacturing technology, robotics, automation, and so on. We have 2 stages, presentations on both stages. We have some technical presentations as well. We have 3 conferences. But what's important is the afternoon of day number 2, so May 16th. We're focusing on engaging students with industry. So we're asking for students to participate. And we have 4 activities on that day between 1 and 5 p.m. where students are able to showcase their talent, connect with industry, provide feedback to industry. So manufacturers understand if they want to attract the younger generation of workers, so yourselves, what should they be doing to make their business attractive to you, right? So the 4 activities, one is a student poster area. So if you're working on projects, research that's related to manufacturing or supply chain, you're welcome to submit a poster to put on in the poster area. We'll have a panel judging the posters. There'll be prizes for first best posters and then runner-up posters. We'll have some opportunity for students to connect directly with manufacturing professionals. So this can be a practice interview for yourself, or it can be a real interview. So if you want, you can submit a resume And someone from the industry will provide you with some feedback on that. We'll have a discussion panel. So the discussion panel will involve 4 students, 3 from post-secondaries and 1 high school student, and a couple industry professionals. And it'll be a discussion about what the young generation, up and coming workers, what they look for in a career and an employer, right? So maybe think about that. What do you look for in a career? What do you look for in an employer? Is it flexible work hours? Is it the ability to work from home? Is it sustainability? Is it ability to use technology or creativity in your job, or maybe ability to progress in your career, right? So if you're interested, we'll leave some information, May 16th, 1 to 5. I think I talked enough, so thank you.
So Peter, would you be willing to introduce everybody here? Oh,
Sure.
yeah. So just name, they can introduce themselves.
Yeah, maybe that's better.
Just Peter's our executive director. I'm our program integration director, David Rist. And then obviously Paul will be presenting here tonight, and he's our digital transformation expert.
Great, all right, thank you. So when I talked with Paul, we had a Zoom chat together as to what you would be talking about. And I think you have entrepreneurship in your vein.
Yes.
And that whatever you say, entrepreneurship might be part of it. And I was telling you, we lost recently 2 students to entrepreneurship. Maybe after you speak tonight, I would be able to keep them because they would be able to connect with you and to interact. So, Paul, how best can I introduce?
I think just introduce me the way you have, which is great. And yeah, my 2 favorite words are on the board here, manufacturing and entrepreneurship. And to be honest, just listening to Peter, enjoying the prayer, I'm rear and ready to go.
All right. So this is part of the school, the Small Business Center, the School of Business. I want to recognize Peter Nuit, who is a close supporter and of the School of Business, Mr. Raja as well, supporting us. And the School of Business, as I said all the time, I have permission of Administration of Vermont University to tell you all that the School of Business belongs in the community and to the community. So I always welcome you, and it's open. That is the beginning, and we'll be working together all the time for the benefits of our community and our students. Again, I'm repeating that. So thank you for being here. Without further ado, we're listening to you. Like to make sure we get started.
Well, it is a great pleasure to be here. And when we started talking, I didn't know what I was supposed to talk about, but when I saw how excited he was about entrepreneurship, I thought, great, that's I've got maybe 5 favorite words, and you're going to hear my 5 favorite words multiple times tonight. One of my favorite words is manufacturing. One of my favorite words is entrepreneurship. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself, and then I'm going to ask maybe 3 or 4 of you to tell me a little bit about yourselves, and I'll tell you the reason why. This guy had me stand in front of the camera for like 6 hours today recording video. And it is the toughest thing in the world for me to talk to nameless, faceless objects. So it is so refreshing for me to be talking to a live group. Yes, so refreshing. So I'm really glad to be here. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Paul Hogendoorn. My favorite title, I have a lot of titles. They call me digital transformation expert. My favorite title is OPA. That's my favorite title. I have 6 grandkids. My world revolves around those grandkids. One of the reasons that I'm doing the things that I'm doing now, and one of the reasons that I did the things previous to what I'm doing now, is because I think a lot of us want to do something that leaves the world a better place for our grandkids and our kids to grow up in. And that's the way I'm wired. And there's a lot of things I can't do. I can't be in politics. I can't heal people. I don't think I'd be a very good pastor. But one of the things that I can do to try to make society keep society in this country as great a place to grow up in as it was when I grew up in, is to help manufacturers stay and sustain and stay sustainable. So that's who I am. What I'd like to know is how many here, put up your hands, who here are students? I'd like to see who are the students. Okay, students, I'd like to see how many students would consider yourself extroverts. Okay, I got at least two. Okay, so I'd like you to introduce yourself to me. I'd like you to tell me why you're here in school and what you're learning and why you're here tonight.
Because it's one of this program is, I think, especially for business school, that because I am business student, so I need to be here and learn more about in my major section, and also I am mixed.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And at the back, you're. Okay, excellent. So what you guys have done for me is I am a mega introvert. So what you guys have done for me is you guys have given me real people to talk to, and you've given me a chance to connect with you. So thank you very much for putting up your hands, for being an extrovert and telling me about yourself and what brings you here. So I'm here to speak about manufacturing and entrepreneurship and their impact to society. I'm hoping that by the time this is finished, you guys are going to have it in your head just as much as it's in my blood, how important manufacturing is and how wonderful and how great an adventure entrepreneurship is. Maybe not so wonderful and great that you want to leave school early, but so wonderful and great that it's something that you want to do when you get out of school. So manufacturing is an interesting word. Manufacturing, it takes its roots from Latin and from French. And manufacturing literally means hand, facture, made. So manufacturing literally means made by hand. So the official dictionary is the process of making wares by hand or by machinery, especially when carried out systematically with the division of labor. That last part in brackets, that's probably been added in the last 10 or 15 years. But making something by hand, that is manufacturing. Taking something in a raw form, adding value to it, making it useful, giving it utility, giving it value, that's manufacturing. So if you look at the economic sector, now I'm just looking at the four major economic sectors in our society today that propel and underpin our society economically. Here in Alberta, very, very strong in the primary industries, very strong. Primary industries basically is harvesting or extracting raw materials. So, I mean, the top three industries here in Alberta, oil and gas, agriculture, lumber. Am I right or wrong? You guys can correct me. You're right. Yeah, I think that's what it is. So Alberta basically has a primary industry economy, but in the last, dozen, maybe more years, there's been an intentional and intensified focus to bring more manufacturing to Alberta. And why is that? Is because manufacturing is a secondary industry. It's a secondary industry that converts raw materials to something of far higher value, of far higher economic value, maybe not social value or moral value, but it converts it to something of far higher value. Now, one thing I didn't tell you when I introduced myself is most of my experience, most of my home business building experience comes from Ontario because that's where I started my businesses. So one of the manufacturing industries I know really, really well is automotive. And as an example of the impact of manufacturing, taking the raw material and converting it, adding value and converting it to a finished good with utility, I look at a car. In 2022, the total value of all the raw materials that went into that car was $2,000. In 2022, the average price of a car manufactured in North America was $43,000. That is a huge uptick in value and a huge uptick in the utilitarian purpose and use for all that raw material, all the resins, all the coals, all the ores. It became the steel became the frame, the fabrics, the plastics, the total value of the raw material, $2,000, the total value of the finished good, $43,000. So, I really like what Alberta's doing right now to say, hey, we have all this great supply of raw materials. We have oil and gas, we have agriculture, we have lumber. But when you ship it from the province in its raw form, you're also shipping the opportunity to add value to that process. So I'm a real big fan of manufacturing in Alberta and making Alberta a better place for manufacturing, which is why I'm working with these guys. Okay, then on top of that, you have the service industry or the tertiary sector providing service in return for fees. Me, I got to tell you honestly, I'm not near as excited about this because this is an exchange of services. I'll do your accounting, you do my will, I'll wash your car, you clean my house, you build my fence. It's a service industry is very, very important, but I'm not convinced that it actually increases economic value because once the service is provided, what gets left over from the service? My car's clean for a day or for 2 days, and yeah, I have my will and got my taxes filed. It doesn't have the residual value, increase of value that a manufactured product has. Now I got to say this, I'm not an economist, and what you're hearing today is a lot of my opinions. I'm a very opinionated guy, and I'm not afraid to share them. So I'm also open to pushback. So if there's questions or pushback with something that I said, feel free to challenge me and push back. And the last thing, so this is supposed to be the epitome of our economic sector. We're supposed to be aiming for this knowledge sector, the ordinary sector. And I've put beside that TBD, to be determined. Yes, we have artificial intelligence. Yes, we have ChatGPT. Yes, we have all of this really, really cool stuff. But I have to ask myself the question, when does it add value? It doesn't add value until that research works itself back into the manufacturing sector. When you learn something new, when you've made a discovery, when you've invented something new, when you have some new knowledge, but when does it actually create economic value? It's usually when it works itself back into manufacturing. So that's how I see manufacturing's impact on the economy. It's a tremendous creator of economic wealth, not just for countries or for companies, but for individuals. So why is manufacturing important? It creates great economic value through the conversion of raw material. We talked about that. And I don't just mean economic value for companies or countries. If you think about the Ford Motor Company, for instance, I think in 1903, they had 300 employees. Around 1913, they started to really take off. 100 years ago, they had close to 100,000 employees, and it grew to over 200,000. For over 100 years, the Ford Motor Company has employed, on average, 200,000 people in North America. And you think those are low-end jobs? No, even on the line, even in the fact that those are above average jobs. So that one manufacturing enterprise has created 200,000 times 100 is 20 million human years of prosperous, well-paying jobs. Manufacturing creates the products that people use every day. There's not a thing in this room that I'm looking at. It's not a, other than us human beings, there's not a thing in this room that I'm looking at that wasn't manufactured. It wasn't the result of adding value to raw materials, using your hands to make something or machines. It creates meaningful and satisfying employment. Now, this is something that I'm quite passionate about. There's three ways of learning and ingesting information, three ways of absorbing information. I'm not a teacher, so I don't mind teachers correcting me if I'm missing one, but primarily they're auditory, it's what you hear. They're visual, it's what you see, or they're kinesthetic, it's what you experience. And there's a large fraction of our people that aren't necessarily auditory, aren't really visual. Their strength, their primary way of learning and ingesting information is kinesthetically through their hands. And I'm one of them. I'm one of them. You can tell me something and I can hear it and listen to it, or I can watch a video on it. And I'm just trying to change the fork oil of my motorcycle. I was telling David on the way here. I don't know how many times I watched those YouTube videos. By the time I get to the garage, poof, it's gone. So, but give me the wrenches, give me the tools, let me apply my common sense, and I'm going to figure it out. So manufacturing creates jobs for people like me, and they're not automatons on an assembly line like the way many people think. No, they are fulfilling jobs. Tool and die makers, fulfilling jobs. Welders, fulfilling jobs. Pipe fitters, fulfilling jobs. For people that are kinesthetic, all those jobs, they don't only provide a good income for them, they're fulfilling jobs. And here, this is what I think. I believe it's in our nature. I believe it's in our basic nature to build, construct, to use our minds and our hands. We have these wonderful opposable thumbs. We have this wonderful dexterity in our hands. Human beings have had the ability to create tools and implements for a long, long time. We were created this way. It's in our DNA. Manufacturing, for me, is not something that's happened in the last 100 years or last 150 years since the invention of the steam engine. Manufacturing has been going on for a long, long time. Okay, I'm just going to show a few little pictures, and then I'm going to try to stitch together the pictures. This is a copper refinery or smelter. It's not much different than a steel one, but I only had pictures of the copper one, but I'm going to have you to imagine a steel for a moment. This is a big trencher. It's built in a company in Strathroy, Ontario. It takes maybe 6 months to build that monster. I'm sure they build maybe 20 of them a year, and they're really, really fascinating. It's just amazing. This is an attachment that goes on this trencher, and this attachment probably takes maybe a month to build. But as you can see, I mean, it's not built by machine, it's built by hand. And that guy, he's following drawings and he's building it to spec, but he's as much an artist and an artisan as he is anything else. And I guarantee you that that guy goes home feeling pretty satisfied about his day's work every day. Now, the material this guy cuts, the material he cuts is cut on this machine here, and this machine here is a big hydraulically driven metal saw that cuts the I-beams and cuts the tubes, cuts the pipe, and cuts all the raw material so that he can fab it and weld it together. And this machine, it happens to be made by a company called Hogendoorn, and they're in Woodstock, Ontario, which is maybe 50 miles from this company, Strathroy, Ontario, which is maybe 20 miles from this place where the metals are refined. This actually in Wisconsin, but for the most part, most of these companies that I'm showing you are pretty close together. And this is the control panel that drives this saw. And this control panel was built in London, Ontario. It was built by my company. So the companies that I started, I haven't talked about them yet, but one of the companies that I started is this company here, OES. And we designed and built the control panel. It thrills me when I walk to this guy's factory maybe 2 months ago, and I walked to the back shop, take a tour of his factory. I saw a Hogendoorn. I had to go take a look. I got to see it. Does it have one of my controls on it? Because I designed that control 35 years ago. I probably built that unit 35 years ago, and it's still running today. So this is the ecosystem of manufacturing. This is symbolic of the ecosystem in manufacturing. And this last picture, because this will be my tie into entrepreneurship. These are my companies. So these two companies side by side here build those controllers for the people that build the saws, for the people that buy the saws, to cut the equipment, to weld the equipment, to build machines like that. It's a tight ecosystem. For every job in manufacturing, it said creates 7 other associated jobs. So you bring a manufacturer to town and it brings 100 new jobs in manufacturing. Well, the spin-off effect of that is 700 more. And how I know that's true is I've lived that. And this is just a classic example of all those companies that I mentioned. Mine was the smallest company. This company made those controls. Now this company right next door, I'll get into this a little later. How many Calgary Flames fans do we have? One. How many Edmonton Oilers fans? No. Okay. Well, this company makes all the scoreboards that you see in Edmonton, Calgary, Dallas, Pittsburgh. That's also a manufacturing company in Canada, right next door to the other company. So that speaks a little bit to my entrepreneurship, but these are manufacturing companies, and I had to send a resume into these guys to actually I didn't, did I?
You did.
I did? Okay, I sent a resume into these guys. I had
Yeah, exactly.
I hadn't written a resume in 40 years. And had to write a resume, and I wrote the resume out, and I thought nobody's going to hire me because I've done nothing. And then somebody else put it to me in a little different way and said, Paul, you can't say you've done nothing. And then they walked me through some of the things that I did. Well, those were 2 of the companies that I built, and I just did the math on my resume, and I only did it because I had to put something on my resume. I think those 2 companies created, I figure 2,500 man years of employment. And I know what the average salary is there, and there's north of 50,000 and under 100,000. So 2,500 man years of employment at, we'll say $75,000. Okay, that's a pretty big impact for a guy that barely graduated college. Okay, so here, why I love manufacturing. I'm going to go back into entrepreneurship in a moment. But why I love manufacturing, and I really do, these are my personal opinions. Manufacturing does more than make stuff. It produces meaningful jobs. It creates economic wealth, not just for companies, but for individuals and families, communities, and indeed our society. I talk about that company. So on average, 100 people, 25 years. I know those people personally. They bought houses when they believed they would never buy a house. They put their kids through college when they never believed they'd put their kids through college. I got invited to the weddings. I got invited to the funerals. All of that economic wealth was created by manufacturing, by taking raw materials, adding some intelligence to it, putting your mind to it, creating products of higher value and higher utility. In my opinion, manufacturing created and sustains the middle class. Briefly, Henry Ford. The automobile was a toy for rich people when Henry Ford came on the scene. He didn't invent the automobile, he automated the process of making the automobile. So he took an automobile that cost way up this much and he brought it down to this point. The problem is he brought the cost of the automobile as low as he could. He still didn't have a market for his product. What did he do? He raised the wages of the people working at his plant, and every other manufacturer in the area had to raise the wages to keep their people too. So Henry Ford did 2 things. He brought the cost of a car down, but he actually literally created the middle class. Again, my opinion, shoot me down if you want, but I don't know anybody else that I would attribute the creation of our middle class to more than Henry Ford. I'm not saying he was perfect, but we're the benefactors of his entrepreneurship today. Manufacturers, this is probably my favorite one. And manufacturers win or lose, they succeed or fail solely based on their product that they bring to market. And you, the consumer, you choosing them. I was telling David today that every time I travel, my wife and my 17-year-old granddaughter go out and do something silly, like they buy something. And they bought a truck. We weren't even talking about it, but they bought a truck. Why that's pertinent is because 7 years ago, I bought a Ford, and the reason I bought a Ford was I really like Fords. I did my research. This was a good car at a good competitive price. And for 7 years, it's been a great car. 275,000 kilometers on it, still drives like a Mercedes. I love it. You would think with that experience that I'd have no other choice or no other thought than to go out and buy another Ford. No, the truth is manufacturers have to win every sale they make. They have to win by being the best, having the most competitive price. And if they don't do that for a sustained period of time, they die. So manufacturers win and lose by meeting the needs and meeting the expectations of their customers. I can't say that about any other industry. I can't say that, maybe you can say that about education. Institutions like this, you have to meet the expectations of your customers. But where else in our society do you win or lose by not without that pressure? They live and die by that pressure every year. So even though some manufacturers are very, very big, like Ford, very, very big, even though they're very, very big, Boeing, very, very big, none of them have the security and assurance of an institution. Institutions can fail and lose money and ask for bailouts. Institutions can be protected by laws and regulations, so you have to have them. You can't do without them. That's not true for manufacturers. You don't deliver a good product for a long enough period of time, you're out of business. So that's why I love manufacturing. The other word that I've used a bit is entrepreneurship. And I have to be honest, it wasn't until 10 minutes ago I looked up what is the original meaning of entrepreneurship. And let me just check my notes. It says originates from a 13th century French word, and it means to do something, to undertake. That's what entrepreneurship started, do something. And that speaks to me and my nature, I can't follow the video on how to, so what do? I do something. And entrepreneurs, that's what they do. They undertake, they do. So our proper modern definition of entrepreneurship is it's the activity of setting up a business or businesses taking on financial risk in the hope for profit. So that still fits, to do something. If you do nothing, you fail. If you do nothing, there is no outcome. If you do something, well, you could succeed, you could fail, but then you do something again, you try again, perhaps you go forward. My two personal favorite quotes, I use these quotes often. I might have even originally come up with them. Maybe that's why they're my favorite. One of my favorite quotes is, you're not an entrepreneur until someone pays you $1 for your product or services. I'm an open guy that mentors and coaches young people a lot, because when I was going through my entrepreneurial journey, I just happened to stumble upon people older than me that were willing to listen to me and to mentor me and to encourage me along. So I do the same thing. But one of the things I hear is folks come and say, I'm an entrepreneur, or I want to be an entrepreneur. And they'll tell me their great idea, and they'll show me great things they did, great things they built. And I didn't want to throw cold water on their enthusiasm. But the reality is, you're not an entrepreneur until somebody pays you for your product or your service. That means you have to have a product that somebody wants, that somebody needs, that somebody believes in, or a service that somebody really values, and they're willing to actually take money out of their pocket and give it to you. You know, give away all the free samples you want, but until somebody actually buys one, you're still not an entrepreneur. Invent something brand new, get patents, find investors that put lots of money into your company, hire people, be an employer, have all of those things going for you. And I'll tell you, you're still not an entrepreneur until you pass the ultimate test. And the ultimate test is there somebody out there that will pay you hard-earned money in exchange for your product or your service. And when you pass that test, you're an entrepreneur. Here's the one that I also like. An entrepreneur can create something for nothing for the economic benefit of many. Okay. How many other vocations, professions can say that they can make something from nothing for the economic benefit of many? Yes, you can be an entrepreneur by buying a franchise, and that is a legitimate entrepreneur. You can be an entrepreneur by buying somebody else's business. You know, as long as your business has customers that pay you for your product or your service, you're an entrepreneur. But if you're a startup entrepreneur, if you're somebody that starts from scratch, and I've started 2 businesses from scratch, like from absolute scratch, from nothing more than not just an idea, I'll just say an idea and a determination. And it created some pretty significant businesses that continue running to this day, and I'm proud to see. But as I say, there's not very many professions or vocations. So if you think you're an entrepreneur, you know, it's in my opinion, it's as noble a thing as being a doctor or being a pastor, because you're creating something of great value, hope, opportunity for many people, and you're doing it from nothing. So entrepreneurship. So I start again with this building. One of the reasons I show the building is sometimes I would drive past that building. It's not mine anymore. It hasn't been mine for about 13 years. I drive past that building and I say, I can't believe it. I can't believe we built not just that building, but that building. I can't believe that. So one of the things I'll share about entrepreneurs is a lot of entrepreneurs like myself have this thing called imposter syndrome. You know, I'm not an engineer. I have no letters behind my name. I'm not a graduate from a business program. It couldn't have been me. It can't be me. So I'll drive past those buildings. As I said, it's sometimes shock, sometimes disbelief. I can't believe that we grew businesses to do business on 5 continents, have 13 patents, and you know, David pulled this out of me one day, and I'm glad he did, because otherwise it would sound like me bragging. We drove to Grand Prairie, and one of the first trips, he wanted to know if I had done anything in Alberta. And I thought, oh yeah, I did the snowmaking system for the Olympics in 1986 in Mount Al. He goes, Kiska? I said, yeah. He said, you did that? I said, yeah, I did that. Then I had to write these things down because I got to connect the dots. So we did that. And that was really, really difficult because I had all of these technology providers, and they're all like prima donnas, and they all sold their equipment in there, but none of the equipment would talk. You couldn't turn anything on or off because nothing would talk. And in the last hours or days or weeks, I had to come in and I had to build a console and an electronic device that was capable of communicating with all of these different systems that had proprietary technology, all to make snow on a hill that got very little snow. But we pulled it off. Then I talked about the Oilers and the Flames. Yes, I did a little scoreboard for a local little arena. I did it in LEDs many, many years ago. Somebody from Coke or Pepsi happened to see it and told somebody else who told somebody else. And before I knew it, I had the San Antonio Spurs on the phone saying, can you make a scoreboard for the San Antonio Spurs? And when you're an entrepreneur, you know there's only one answer. And that answer is, yeah, sure. Then you have to go tell your little engineering team what you just committed to, and you have to go figure out a way to get it done. So in Alberta, so we've done the Oilers, the Flames, as both. Those are my company's scoring and timing technologies in there. So if you're cheering for the Oilers, you're cheering for the Flames. I'm cheering for them both. And a little while later, we driving past the Gold Bar sewage treatment plant in Edmonton. So that's the main sewage treatment plant in Edmonton. And we said, oh yeah, I did that too. He goes, oh, what did you do there? I said, oh, I made all the control systems that disinfect the wastewater prior to it going out into the river. So it's all disinfected through a UV system, and I did all the controls for that. She goes, you did? I said, yeah, I did. So Olympics in Calgary, sewage treatment, and not just Edmonton, but lots of places, scoreboards, and it all does tie back together because one day I was called into the NBA office in New Jersey, and 4 or 5 NBA clubs had used my scoring and timing technology, and we're a little company in London, Ontario, and the NBA wanted to know if we were up to the task. So I had a lot of conversations, answered as many questions as I could, and finally there was one person who didn't ask any questions the whole time long. She sat there and she just finally said, so why should the NBA do business and trust a little company in London, Ontario to do our scoreboard systems? And I said, see that coffee pot in the corner? She said, yes. I said, every time you make a pot of coffee, think of me. Your bathroom's down the hall. Every time you flush your toilet, you think of me. She goes, what? I said, every gallon of water that comes into the city of New York is disinfected by a drinking water disinfection system that I designed the controls for. And every gallon of water that goes into the Hudson River, when you flush your toilet, gets disinfected by a control system that I designed the controls for. So I think if I can design control systems that can look after the drinking water for the city of New York, I think I can keep track of the score of a basketball game. Anyways, we passed the test and we became an approved vendor for the NBA, and that's all out of those companies. So I just have to show this picture for a minute because I do want to talk about entrepreneurship. And yes, this is a picture of me. It looks nice. This is a picture of me late in career, I'll say, just maybe a couple of years ago. It's Hogendoorn, Ontario. I'm looking at the harbor. Nice boats. I'm wearing my motorcycle riding gear. And it's a very, very idyllic setting. And when most people see things about, entrepreneurs or business owners, they think that's what I want. I want to be that guy. Well, if you look a little closer, I'm sitting there alone. Now, why am I sitting there alone? Because nobody likes me? Well, you really have to live in your own head for long, long periods of time. That you do find yourself being alone a lot, sometimes by design, but sometimes because you're just not on the same wavelength as other people and you might have trouble relating. Again, thank you for you 2 extroverts who introduced yourself to me to sort of get me out of my shell. But that's the life of a lot of entrepreneurs. One of the things I'll say is, if you're not ready to be lonely, maybe you're not ready to be an entrepreneur. Okay, so entrepreneurship is a journey. It's a journey. There's the launch stage, which is really exciting. It's everybody working 80 hours, eating pizzas. You've seen the pictures, the movie maybe about the cell guys, BlackBerry. That's classic launch mode. That's classic launch mode. What I just showed you, the picture I showed you, I'm going to call lifestyle mode. So if you get past the launch mode and you get some traction, you get some success, you get to this really nice period called lifestyle mode, which, as I said, was reflective of me sitting there in the harbor looking at the boats. Now, there's a problem with lifestyle mode. The problem with lifestyle mode is you like it. And you like it so much, you don't take your company to the next level. And if you don't take your company to the next level, what happens is when you remove yourself from the company or you're no longer relevant to your company collapses. So you have to get past lifestyle mode and you have to get what I call legacy mode. Now, legacy mode, just so we don't misunderstand, legacy mode means the company goes on without you and the company does as well without you as it did with you. Maybe if you've really done your job right, the company even does better without you than it did with you. You took it as far as you could, but you positioned it so we can go even further. Most companies fail at launch mode, but the really determined entrepreneurs try again, and they hit lifestyle mode. And the problem with lifestyle mode is the trappings. Hey, I like my income. Hey, I like my job. Hey, I like my reduced hours. Hey, I like my big house. A lot of entrepreneurs don't get past lifestyle mode. And I'll be honest, it wasn't easy to get past lifestyle mode. Okay, it's not for everyone. I said, be prepared to be lonely. Be prepared to be criticized, second guessed. Be prepared to hear a lot of whispers. I told him so. I knew it. but also be prepared to listen, to start again, to persist when you feel like giving up. So if you ask me, what is the primary ingredient that separates successful entrepreneurs from unsuccessful entrepreneurs? It's not education, it's not intelligence. Maybe it's a little bit of luck and timing, but the primary ingredient is tenacity. That's the primary ingredient. And the funny thing is, the more tenacity you have, the greater the chance you're going to get lucky, the greater the chance that guy from the San Antonio Spurs is going to call. Have a life partner and or a strong understanding network. So I got to tell you a little bit about my life partner. Probably my two greatest accomplishments as an entrepreneur is I'm still married to the same wife that I was married to when I started. Can't tell you how many times that fails. So that really requires not just effort on your part. It really requires a lot from your life partner. In my case, I had a great life partner. I still have a great wife. I have a great wife. So little story, 7 years after starting my first company, I became aware of my peers, the guys that I graduated from college with, and I saw their careers and I saw the companies they were working for. And I was feeling really bad because I saw the houses they were living in and the two cars in the driveway. So one day on my way to work, I stopped, I turned to my wife and I told her, I said, that's it. I think I'll go out and I'll find a real job and I'll provide for you the way that Sid provided for his and Charlie provided for his. And my wife says, no, you will not. And I said, why not? She said, I'm not going to hear you say 10 years from now, I wonder if I could, or I wonder if I could have. You're going to be able to tell me that you could or you couldn't, but you're not going to say, I wonder if. So she's the one that gave me a kick in the pants and told me to go get him, Tiger. And as I said, you have to be persistent and tenacious. And sometimes you're not going to be persistent and tenacious enough. That's where you need a really good life partner. Or a good network of people to help you along. I said there's two things I was really proud of. The other thing I was really proud of is my kids. A lot of entrepreneurs have dual lives. They're a hard-working workaholic, and then they become a family man and they put in their time when they have to. And I think when I look back at my careers, I was never that guy. Yeah, I worked hard. But what I did was I involved all my family in my entrepreneurial endeavors. If I had a business trip to El Paso and I had a friend in El Paso with the family, I'd take my family, we'd stay at his house. If I had to go to Chicago for a trade show, I know my wife loves to shop in big cities. So my wife and my granddaughter would come. If I had business guests over from China or Korea and I was taking them out for dinner, I would take my older grandkids with me. My older grandkids, they had restaurant manners. That's one of the things I said, hey, you can travel with me, but you got to have restaurant manners. So my kids and my grandkids got to meet people from all over the world. They got to travel with me. And when I came home grumpy or I came home stressed out, I didn't have to do too much explaining because they know who I was. They know what I was. I was never something different for them than I was in the rest of my life. So they lived the entrepreneurial journey with me. I shared it with my wife. I shared it with my family. So that's the other thing I'm proud of. Still married to the same woman, and my kids know me and love me, even though I'm an entrepreneur. It's a great adventure. I call entrepreneurship a great adventure within the adventure of life. And here's going to be my last point. The businesses that I built, I consider them my refrigerator art. And this is sort of like an epiphany that came to me one day when I was raising my granddaughter. She would draw me nice, pretty pictures, and I would put them on my refrigerator. Were they Van Goghs? No. Were they great pieces of art compared to drawings of older kids? No. But they were her art. That was her art. And I put that on my refrigerator And I loved it because it was from her, it was her best, it was her expression. It was her picture of what I looked like and my wife looked like and the dogs looked like. That was her refrigerator art. I happened to be flying somewhere, sitting up in the clouds, looking out the window, missing my home, asking myself the same question. And I could be honest, I've asked myself this question multiple times over my 40-year career. Why in the world am I doing this? Why am I leaving home again? So that's what I thought to myself. And then I realized that my business that I was building was my refrigerator art. Every job that we do, every vocation that we have, in my opinion, should be a form of worship. If you're a musician, you're worshiping when you're making music. If you're an artist, you're worshiping when you're making art. I think the Apostle Paul said, basically, you're even worshiping when you're sitting down at the side of the road making tents. You're worshiping how you do your job, how you work with your hands is a form of worship. I realized that my building business is, yes, this is a 100-person business and it's got 20,000 square foot high-tech buildings, blah, 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 blah. It pales in comparison to all these other businesses, but that's my refrigerator art. That's my art that I created with the talents and the opportunities and the energy that I was given. So, you know, what's the best thing you can do with the talents that you're given? What's the best thing you can do with the time you're given? You know, you can use it as a form of worship and you can live your life that way. I'm going to talk about my three favorite I's: imagination, insight, and inspiration. And, you know, there's lots of great I's: innovation, invention, improvement. But I liked insight, inspiration, imagination. Insight to me means looking inside of yourself, looking inwards and being honest with what you see. It's surprising how many good ideas you can validate when you're thinking about building a product. You can go out to the world to figure out if it's a good product, or you can just look inside yourself and be honest. Is this something that I would want? Is this something that resonates with me? Is this? So insight, very, very important. Inspiration. So, you know, we should all know here, inspiration comes from the inspiration, something from outside. A spirit from outside dwells inside. So you say, hey, I had an inspiration. Well, just think about that for a minute. What did that really mean? Well, that's where your ideas come from. And then the last word I'm going to share with you is imagination. I think in our heads, we have imagination. We can build pictures and images in our mind, and then we can go out and try to make them real. This is just something that I thought about the other day. Ideas come from insight, inspiration, and imagination. And I'm not sure how this ties, but if you always think of the root word, the origins of word, imagination, image, well, we were all created in the image of God. So I don't know what that means philosophically or theologically. That's for smarter people here to know. But I do know what you do with your life, what you do with your brain, what you do with your hands matters. And it can make a big, huge impact for society. And, you know, if you're doing it right, it's a form of worship. So I'm going to leave it at that. I got 2+ minutes for questions. We'll hang around. The three of us will hang around for a little bit. We do have some material if anybody has questions and wants to go a little bit deeper on what we do as the Me cluster, what we're trying to do for manufacturing, and how we're being as supportive as we can to create an entrepreneurial ecosystem.
Any questions now?
Sure.
For a wonderful presentation. You started out comparison of manufacturing to services. We made me think right he's a farmer, he produced things. I worked with computers way back, so I didn't have real jobs. Did appreciate that. But my question is, I think manufacturing is kind of for a lot of young people, they want to have an office job. computers, so I work with the information, that's kind of the society kind of pushes people towards that. One of my kids is actually an example of that, played volleyball in college and played playing on. He did really well, but some days I feel he would probably be much happier in some cases to work with his hands. What are some ideas that you guys have to actually make the manufacturing sector more interesting? Some people need their windows, machines, come up with the ideas and actually get stuff built. How do you thoughts?
I think hobbies and toys. I am a big fan of Lego and what Lego is doing and how Lego now is creating some really phenomenal kits that really illustrate how a differential works in a car, for instance. I can't believe how far Lego has gone. So getting your kids toys, Legos, mechano sets. I'm not sure if mechano sets are still around. When I interview engineers for my companies, I always ask them what their hobbies were. I mean, I look at their resumes, I look at their marks, I look at their courses. What are your hobbies? One guy I ended up hiring, I did hire him, but I said, do you ever build tree forts? He goes, no. I said, did you ever change your own spark plugs? He goes, nope. I said, did you ever wire the basement with your dad? No. Did you ever build a deck in your backyard? No. Then why did you want to be an engineer? He said, because the high school guidance teacher told him he was good at math and he should either be an engineer or an accountant, and accounting was too boring. But what did I do to him? So he was late in life. What did I do to him? I gave him a lot of mechanical things, I told him he could design whatever he wanted, but he had to build the first one. And he would build the first one, and he came to my office one day and his arms were all scratched and he had cut some bruises and wrapped knuckles. And he came to me and he said, thank you for that. I said, why? He said, now I know why everybody back there hates me. Because his designs are so difficult to build. But typically, if he had built with Meccano, if he had built with Lego, so that would be my answer. I'm not sure. Peter's probably got a better answer.
Yeah, so to add to that, what is the manufacturing sector doing to attract the younger generation, right? So that's kind of the question we're gonna ask at the Smart MTX, right? Whether it's, the digital transformation and the Industry 4.0 revolution, right? Introducing digitization in manufacturing, software, robotics, automation, advanced modeling and cyber physical systems, right? Touch screens where you can use your creativity, right? You're no longer standing at a conveyor belt, right? Picking up pieces or assembling things manually, or you're not welding necessarily, for 8 hours a day laying underneath the pipe. You're operating a robotic system or a cobot, right? So I think that helps, with the creativity and engagements.
This is the other thing we're encouraging. People said bowling was dead. Like 20 years ago, you thought the bowling industry was dead. And it's interesting, there's a really neat bowling alley downtown here. I should have taken a picture of it. But they were all dying, and this is what they look like. Bowling is thriving and booming today, because this is what they look like. And I point out the game is the same, the way you keep the scoring is the same, the pins are the same, the balls are the same, everything is the same, but it's booming. I tell manufacturers that's what they have to do to their plant. The product is the same, the machines are the same, but they got to go from this boring to this. And that's digital transformation, which is what these guys hired me for.
Other questions?
So now that you're,
I'm sorry.
you're an entrepreneur and now you're working for Steve.
Well, I tried retiring, guys told me can't retire. And I told you already, the answer is, for me, this is like retirement because I don't have a board of directors. I don't have shareholders. I don't even have customers. This is great.
I mean, consider about manufacturing, leaving Canada, that a big concern there.
Great question. It left Canada in the 80s and the 90s. A lot of it's coming back. Whether you agree with it or not, the whole ESG thing is actually bringing it back. When I talked about converting raw materials into things of higher value, now manufacturers have to convert raw materials into things of higher value, and they have to be mindful of the energy, and they have to be mindful of their carbon footprint. And the best way to do that is to put your manufacturing facilities as close to the raw materials as you can. And that is what's happening. The other thing I find about Canada, and more the US than Canada, but this market, is the higher value manufacturing is staying or coming back. So the exodus of low value manufacturing, in my opinion, that exodus is gone and over, and we're getting a rebound, but the rebound is coming back as higher value manufacturing. Yes.
Question.
Sure, sure. There is low cap things you can do. So in a car, which I know really, really well, if you want to make fenders in a car, you're spending millions of dollars in tooling, millions and millions of dollars in tooling. But if you want to make the wire harness, you're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars. So there's low cap manufacturing opportunities, and there's higher cap manufacturing opportunities. In Alberta, there's a lot of manufacturing opportunities where what you need is the best planning. And we were just talking about that earlier. Some companies have a 120-day lead time on a product, and there's no reason for the 120-day lead time. You can beat your competitor by having a higher price, or you can beat that competitor by having far better processes, far better way of managing your work, and you can have a 60-day lead time and a higher price. So there's a lot of ways, but the number one thing is you have to see a need, recognize a need where someone will pay you for your product or service. Manufacturing does not have to be high cap. Welding doesn't cost much to have welding equipment. There's a real shortage of companies that'll do welding and manufacture welded product. Those XY cutters, flame cutters, $20,000, $40,000, $60,000, $80,000, and you can cut all the pieces of steel that you needed to make one of those attachments. Now all you need is welded. So there's a lot of low cap.
How many businesses have you seen start in someone's garage?
Yeah. Yes, that's a great point. They and then you have that customer, you have that need, and you build on that momentum. It doesn't have to be a big start, it just has to be a start. You had a question over there? Okay, did I see all that? So
How
sorry.
Oh, I was going to ask a question.
Sure.
For business majors. How can a business major can be part of the manufacturing ecosystem?
Well, by being at the Smart MTX on May 16th, that's your first step. Is that a good answer, Peter?
Excellent.
Yes. Yes, and one of the columns I just wrote, I write a lot of blogs. One of the columns I just wrote, and this is to the answer I gave you on your point, is managing businesses smart. Just order of operations makes a huge difference. And I'm not sure when you're going to run that blog, but very soon. But we'll send you some links, but there's a very good answer to that a lot of manufacturers, they know how to weld, they know how to bend, they know how to get things out their shop. But if someone could help them plan, they say, yes, you have to do these things in these orders, but why did you have to build it, set it over there in the corner, start building something else, and take that out of the corner and finish it? Why did you add value to that product 2 months before it was needed when you're not going to get cash for it for 2 months? Why don't you streamline your operations so you're adding value closer to the cash conversion time? You know, that's business thinking, and manufacturing really needs fresh business thinking as much as it might believe it needs technology. In my opinion, it needs fresh business thinking.
Yeah, there's anyone here has watched the movie Moneyball,
Yes.
right? But applying statistics and business analytics to manufacturing, identifying where you can reduce costs, save some time, and serve your customers better, right? Like an analytical approach. I think it's very much underappreciated at manufacturing businesses in Alberta. And I think it's a growing field, and there'll be a demand for that in the future.
So no knock on manufacturers, but just remember what I said about kinesthetics. Most manufacturers, manufacturing leaders are kinesthetics. They learn with their hands. Okay. Boy, can you imagine what you can do to their business when you let them work with their hands and think with their hands, but you're thinking with your head.
We lost one student last year because he said, I want to work with my hands. And we could not offer that.
Yes.
So now we know we can work together and make that happen.
But the combination of both. You see very successful manufacturing businesses, the ones that become very successful, become very big. Part of what makes them as successful as they are is because they do have that data analytics background. They have that, they're harnessing the data and they're harnessing what is actually happening, the visibility of what's happening in the shop floor with what's happening in the head stream. And they're able to create that instant understanding. They actually have good visibility of the product. And when you have good visibility of what's going through every step of the process, you can see the cost of your goods, then you're becoming more efficient and you're getting a better product at a lower cost. So
to tie a few conversations together, the answer to your question, which you gave, is start in your garage. Well, to get from the garage to a nice shiny building like I was showing you, that requires more than being really practical with your hands. It requires some business acumen. And I'll be honest, I was a graduate from the School of Hard Knocks. What I learned in 15 or 20 years, I probably could have learned in 3 or 4 if I went to school.
So you want me to pass that?
yeah, go right ahead. Yeah, we'd love for everybody.
Okay.
There's an article here for you guys if you'd like to read it, and this is something that Paul put together for tonight.
So that's one of the articles available in our news and blog section on their website. So there's many more on the website if you want to read more.
www.
Oh, yes.
Me clustered, or sorry, MEE. Clustered.ca.
That. They get something.
Yes.
So like, how you choose the right people to. For all that, like.
Oh, just like. Okay, that is just such a fantastic question. I could talk on that question for an hour. I'll try to compress it down to 2 minutes. The first people you hire are critical. So I've done a lot of study on this after the fact, figure out why did this take me so long? That's why I studied it. And the conclusion I came to is 3% of the people are willing to be that entrepreneur. And they likely see problems different, they see challenges different, they see opportunities different, and they're tenacious enough to go after it. That's 3% of the population. 97% of the population processes things different, looks for processes, wants to follow processes. So there's always friction and a chasm. And I'll say I started 5 companies, but 2 of note, 1 spectacularly successful, 1 still not quite successful. The difference is the people I hire. That's the difference. And it's not the highest capable people or the most intelligent people or the most accredited people. I talked about 3% and 97%. Well, of the 97%, there's a group, and I call them the 8%ers. They see things the way the 97% do. But as soon as they hear your idea, as soon as they catch your vision, they instantly switch and they're there with you. So the first people you hire have to be 8%ers. So when you grow the company and you start to get to different levels, okay, now you don't have to worry so much about having yourself surrounded by 8%ers. But, and I know this from my own experience, you have the wrong people in the wrong places. It glass ceilings your talent, and your talent can't grow past that. So the first people you hire, the first handful of people you hire, you're looking for people that can get excited and get it done. And that's a quote I missed in my slide. What do I say about entrepreneurs all the time? I have to sanitize this because of the place where I'm at. Entrepreneurs, they do one of 2 things. They make things happen, or they get things done. Entrepreneurs don't live in the middle. They're busy making things happen, or they're busy getting things done. So the first people you hire have to be people that can get excited about what you've made happen, and they turn around and their mission is to get it done. Did that answer the question? Okay.
Okay, all right. So with that, we would end the session tonight. I want to thank you all for coming out. And thank you, Paul, and thank you, the NE cluster, and did that in the School of Business, just put a little souvenir, a little card in there.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So we'll stay in touch, and I hope in a few years my students will be expert in process manufacturing, among other things.
Wonderful.
Whatever.
Thank
Thank
you
you
so
very much. So feel free to stop by and chat with our presenter tonight. We have a couple of minutes, maybe.
Sure.
Yeah, a couple of interactions, and there are a few business cards here. Them for that event in May for you to attend. I would encourage you to attend that as well. Great. Thank you. That couldn't last long.
On size, so maybe the other, yeah. And from one, you're an